Hi, welcome back to our Reading and Use of English blog. Are you having a good day? In this video, we're looking at 3 key features of the keyword transformation task. That is part 4 of the Advanced Reading and Use of English. So we're going to look at what you need to do in part 4 and also at some of the main things that you're being tested on. Okay, so get yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and let's talk about part 4. Okay, so what is part 4 all about? Well, this part of the exam contains 6 questions, with each question carrying a possible 2 marks. Let's look at an example question. First of all, you're given a sentence, such as this one. Take a look. You're also given a word in bold. Cambridge referred to this word as the key word. In our example, the key word is strike. Finally, they also give you the beginning and end of a second sentence. What you need to do is to complete the second sentence using the key word so that it has the same or a very similar meaning to the first sentence. So in our example, the answer would be, did anything about his behaviour strike you as strange? So, how do you deal with this part of the exam? First of all, it's really important that you read the first sentence very carefully so that you understand exactly what it means. You also need to identify the part of sentence 1 which is missing from sentence 2. One way to do this is to cross out the duplicated parts of the 2 sentences and to see what you're left with in sentence 1. This will be the idea that you need to communicate in sentence 2. So in our example, that would be the words seem to you. So, what's being tested in part 4? Well, a number of things. Let's have a look at some of the main ones. This is Michael. He's in his last year at university. Recently, he's been going out and partying a lot with his friends, but now he's getting nervous about his final exam in 6 weeks' time. So, he's decided it's time to hit the books. Hopefully, if he sticks to his revision schedule, he'll pass with flying colours. These are 2 examples of idioms that we use when we're talking about education or studying. Knowledge of idioms is important in every part of Cambridge Advanced, but it's vital here because sometimes the key word that you're given refers to a specific idiom that you need to use. Let's look at an example. Here we've got a typical part 4 question. So first of all, we've got sentence 1, then we've got the key word, shed, and then finally we've got the beginning and the end of sentence 2. Pause the video while you read it, and then press play when you're ready to continue. Okay, I've crossed out the parts of the sentences that mean the same thing. So you can see now what's missing in part 2 is the idea of help us to understand. Any ideas how we can use the word shed to convey this meaning? Well, we're not talking about the kind of shed in the garden where you might keep your garden tools. What we need is the idiom to shed light on something, which means to help someone understand something. Okay, now it's your turn to have a go. Take a look at these Part 4 sentences and keywords. What idioms do you know that include these keywords? Pause the video while you think about it and try to complete the sentences. Then press play when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, so the answer to number 1 is it goes without saying that I did not agree to lend them the money. The idiom it goes without saying is very similar to of course. It's obvious, so it's not necessary to say it. Note that the that is optional. You can either include it or omit it. Number 2. It's high time Ben cleaned his car. If it's high time you did something, it means that you really ought to have done it already. Notice that we use the past simple with this structure, even though we're actually talking about the present. Number 3. It's only a matter of time until. We can use until or before with this structure. It means that it's certainly going to happen one day. And finally, number 4. There's no telling, or no way of telling, who will win the match. It's impossible to know. Okay, now let's move on and look at another one of the things that you're tested on, as well as your knowledge of idioms and fixed expressions. This is Anna. She loves spending time in the great outdoors, especially cycling in the hills near where she lives. This is the first time in ages that she's been able to get out on her bike because she hurt her ankle last month. The doctor advised her against exercising for at least 6 weeks, and this has prevented her from going mountain biking. You might remember from our blog on Reading and Use of English Part 2 that the words in bold are dependent prepositions. Prepositions which go together with a certain noun, verb or adjective. As well as being important in Part 2, dependent prepositions are really important in Part 4. People lose so many marks in this section because they either miss out or use the wrong preposition when they're completing the sentences. Because of this, it's really important that you learn new vocab along with its dependent prepositions. Okay, so here's your chance to test yourself. Here are 4 Part 4 questions. I've helped you because I've completed most of the answers in italics. All that's left is for you to fill in the missing prepositions. Easy? Let's see. Pause the video while you try, then press play when you're ready to check your answers. Ready? Okay, so number 1, it's have no intention of giving up. Number 2, it's congratulated her on choosing. Number 3, he apologized for not having turned up. And number 4, Graham lost no time in phoning his wife. If you got any of these wrong, then make sure you learn the correct construction. Okay, so now let's move on and look at something else that you're being tested on in Part 4. This is Carla. She's a singer-songwriter. She moved to London from her home in Ireland last year. She wanted to move because London is said to be one of the best places to get signed to a record label. Did you notice that this sentence uses the passive voice? The passive voice is just one of the grammatical structures that you'll need a good knowledge of in Part 4. Conditionals, gerunds and infinitives, reported speech, modal verbs, linking verbs, quantifiers, These are just a few more. The key word that you're given will often dictate that you need to use a particular grammatical structure. Not only do you need to be able to identify which one, but you also need to be able to use it accurately and appropriately to get full marks on this task. How good is your knowledge of advanced grammatical structures? Well, let's give it a go. Here are 3 Part 4 questions that focus on grammar. Pause the video while you try and complete them. Then press play when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, so number 1. Did you work out that you needed to use the third conditional? In sentence 2, you need to use the structure can't plus have plus past participle. This is a structure that we use for speculating about the past. Finally, in question 3, you needed to remember that we use a noun and or a gerund with despite. So, make sure that you review these kinds of structures while you're preparing for the advanced. You'll want to pick up as many of those 12 potential marks as you can. Okay, so let's take stock. We've looked at 3 features of Part 4 that crop up frequently: idiomatic language, dependent prepositions, and grammatical structures. I think it's time to test your skills now. How well can you deal with an exam-style task that includes all of these aspects and more? Take a look at the first part of this exam-style task. For each question, complete the second sentence so that it has the same meaning as the first sentence. You must use the key word given, and you can't change it in any way. Remember that you must use between 3 and 6 words, including the key word. So pause the video while you work on the first 3 questions, then press play when you're ready to move on to questions 4 to 6. Okay, ready for 3 more questions? Pause the video while you work on the answers. And remember, never leave an empty gap in the exam. Write something, even if you're not sure. You might just get a mark for it. Okay, so do you have the answers to all the questions? Then let's check them. Firstly, question 1. The key word you were given is wishes. What you need to recognize here is that we can use the verb to wish to express regret. You also need to note that when we're talking about a regret in the present, as in sentence 1, we use wish with the past simple. So the answer here is either wishes he could or wishes he was able to. You can write wishes that he could or wishes that he was able to, but the that is optional. Okay, what about question 2? The key word means could cause a little bit of confusion here. Is it the verb means that we need here? Well, it's hard to see how that would fit this sentence. No, what we need is to use the noun means. To be specific, what we need is the idiom by no means, which means not at all. We also need to change the adjective from sentence 1, unclear, into a positive adjective, clear. Okay, what about question 3? Here we need another fixed expression, contrary to popular opinion. And we need to remember to use the right preposition after contrary. Contrary to. Now, question 4. This is another example of needing to use the right preposition. First of all, we need to use the noun increase, as this collocates with considerable. Secondly, we need to know that when we talk about the thing which has increased, we use the preposition in. Bear in mind, however, that if we're talking about how much something has increased, we use the preposition of. So, for example, an increase of 20,000 people per year. Okay, question 5. This question relies on your knowledge of grammatical structures and how to make a sentence with unless. Whereas the first sentence has the negative pronoun nobody, the second sentence needs to use the positive pronoun. Alternatively, you could have the answer unless there are any. And finally, question 6. Again, you need to work out which idiom the key word is prompting you to use. The idiom is take it for granted, which here means to assume something without checking. So, how did you do? If you got any of these wrong, make a note of the correct structures and review them. So that's all for now then. Hopefully you feel more comfortable with reading and use of English Part 4. If this video was useful, then please click the like button and share it on your socials. Do you have any advice or strategies that help you with Part 4? If so, put them in the comments section below. Have a great day, and I hope to see you soon in the next video.